You didn't choose to be alone. At least not at first. It just happened. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe your friends stopped calling. Or maybe you just woke up one day, and the noise was gone. But now it's quiet. No texts. No parties. No validation. No distractions. Just you, and the silence you used to run from. And in that silence, something stirs. A pain you thought you buried. A truth you never wanted to hear. And a presence, deeper than thought, waiting for you to finally come home. Isolation isn't a punishment, it's the alchemy of awakening. And this is the beginning of your transformation. Because in this video, you're not going to learn how to cope with loneliness. You're going to transcend it. You're going to learn why solitude is not a curse, but a spiritual calling. Why the silence you dread is the doorway to your highest self. And how being alone, truly, deeply alone, breaks you just enough to finally rebuild you. This is not about avoiding people. This is about finding the one person who can save you, you. Let's begin. You've been surrounded your whole life. By people. Screens. Notifications. Noise. It never stopped, did it? From the moment you opened your eyes in the morning to the second you collapsed at night, the world fed you a never-ending stream of distractions. Podcasts, playlists, YouTube rabbit holes scrolling. Even your thoughts were loud, weren't they? And beneath all of it, beneath the music, the memes, the small talk, the synthetic pleasure, there was something you didn't want to feel. You were afraid that if the noise ever stopped, you'd have to face what's really there. And now here you are. Alone. No crowd to lose yourself in. No one to impress. No voice to validate you. It's jarring at first. Like waking up from a long anesthesia and realizing how deeply asleep you've been. You start noticing how addicted you were, not just to others, but to being seen by them. Because when no one's watching, who are you? When there's no applause, no likes, no echo chamber, do you even exist? You begin to see it. The noise was a numbing agent. It kept you from confronting the deep void that was always there. The part of you that doesn't know who you are without a role to play. And this exact confrontation, is the beginning of the alchemy. Real solitude isn't the absence of people. It's the absence of the self you constructed to survive them. That version of you, the agreeable one, the cool one, the normal one, was born in a world of mirrors. You built it through feedback, praise, rejection, survival. But now there are no mirrors left. Just you, and the raw, trembling awareness that something must change. And maybe that's why isolation hurts so much. Because it doesn't just leave you alone. It leaves you naked, without the illusions. If you want to awaken, you must first dissolve. And dissolution begins when the noise finally dies. There was a moment, maybe subtle, maybe devastating, when the world turned its back on you. Someone left. A relationship ended. A dream collapsed. Or maybe life just went quiet for no reason at all. And in that moment, you were alone. Not just alone in a room, but existentially alone. As if some invisible string tethering you to the world had been cut. You didn't realize it at first. You reached for your phone. You looked for a distraction. You told yourself it was temporary. But somewhere in the stillness, something deeper whispered. This is not an accident. This is initiation. This wasn't just rejection. This wasn't failure. This was your soul being called inward. Because solitude, real solitude, isn't a retreat. It's a fire. And when you're thrown into it, you don't walk away the same. In that moment of aloneness, you felt the ache, didn't you? The ache of needing to be held. The ache of wanting someone to understand. The ache of realizing that no one else can really save you. Not forever. And that's the turning point. Because the ache is sacred. It is the very opening through which your true self begins to emerge. You see, transformation never begins with answers. It begins with emptiness. With loss. With sitting in a room and realizing there's no one coming to fill it. That's when your journey begins. Not because someone pushed you forward, but because you finally stopped waiting to be rescued. This is the dark corridor every awakened soul must pass through. The holy silence where the masks fall. where your craving to be validated is broken, and something deeper than ego begins to speak. The moment you were left alone was the moment the higher self started whispering. Now the noise is gone. No more applause. No more judgment. No more pretending. Just the quiet. At first, it's unbearable. Like staring into a mirror you've avoided your entire life. There's nothing to distract you from yourself anymore. And for the first time, you see things you were never meant to ignore. The insecurities you masked with jokes. The anger you hid beneath productivity. The grief you drowned in shallow conversations. In the silence, they return. Not to haunt you, but to heal you. You begin to realize that all your life, you were edited. Not by others, but by the version of yourself you believed they would accept. But the silence doesn't care about that version. It strips it away. Until only the raw truth remains. You start noticing the gap between the person you show the world and the person quietly breaking inside. And in that sacred discomfort, something happens. You stop resisting. You stop performing. You stop trying to be enough for a world that never even knew your name. You let the mask fall. And there, in the stillness, you meet you. The real you. The one who's not trying to impress, to achieve, to survive. The one who was buried beneath all the noise, all the trauma, all the pretending. You realize you weren't afraid of being alone. You were afraid of meeting the person who lived in the silence. And now that you're face to face with them, you have a choice. Deny them. Or embrace them. But know this. The silence will not lie to you. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't condemn. It only reflects. And if you're brave enough to stare long enough into that mirror, you will begin to see not just your wounds, but your wisdom. Silence reveals who you were before the world told you who to be. And in that truth, your healing begins. So, you've been sitting with the silence. You've stared into the mirror. You've felt the ache of loneliness wrap around your ribs like a cold wind. And now something deeper begins to stir. Not light. Not peace. But darkness. Memories. Regrets. Fantasies you were too ashamed to admit. Anger you never expressed. Desires you labeled as wrong. Wounds you laughed off but never healed. This is where most people run. Back to distraction. Back to noise. Back to pretending. But you stayed. And now you're in the void. No one told you it would feel like this. That becoming your highest self requires descending into your lowest. That before you rise, you must kneel before the parts of you you've abandoned. This is shadow work. And it's not therapy speak. It's not a cute journaling prompt. It's war. A quiet, internal war between the image you've crafted and the truth you've buried. And in the silence, the buried truths come back with a voice. The voice of the child who never felt safe. The teen who numbed himself to survive. The adult who can't feel love without shame. The predator within. The coward within. The addict within. They all rise. And they do not rise to hurt you. They rise because you're finally strong enough to face them. You start to realize, these demons are not your enemies. They're fragments. Parts of your soul you exiled because the world told you they were unlovable. But now, in isolation, you see the truth. You cannot become whole by cutting yourself into pieces. You cannot ascend by abandoning the parts of you that dwell in the dark. You must go down to rise up. You must confront to integrate. You must forgive to awaken. The void is not empty. It is full of the parts of you you're finally ready to reclaim. So you sit with your demons. You look them in the eye. You stop judging them. And you say, I see you. And I am not leaving. And just like that, the healing begins. Not because the pain is gone, but because you're no longer running from it. This is the underworld of your soul. And by surviving it, you earn the right to ascend. You didn't think this would happen. That after all the pain, the silence, the shadow, you'd feel this. Not ecstasy. Not euphoria. Something quieter. Something stronger. Clarity. A strange calm settles in your bones. Not because your life is perfect. Not because your wounds are gone, but because you're no longer pretending. You've touched the chaos. You've danced with your demons. And somehow, by facing what you feared most, you've become something new. You're not who you were. You don't need to be liked. You don't need to be seen. You don't even need to be understood. Because for the first time in your life, you understand yourself. You can hear the voice now. The one that was always beneath the noise. The one that says, you were never broken. You were becoming. This is the higher self. Not a fantasy. Not a halo. Not perfection. But the deep, unwavering presence within you that knows. Knows what matters. Knows what's true. Knows when to speak, and when to stay still. And it was never missing. It was just buried under the life you thought you had to live. Isolation didn't break you. It peeled you, layer by layer, until only essence remained. And now that essence walks with you. You no longer search for validation. You create from stillness. You act with intention. You live not for applause, but for alignment. You've stopped reacting. You've started listening. And in that listening, the higher self speaks. Through your words, your actions, your silence. Rebirth isn't loud. It's the quiet realization that you are not your wounds. You are the space that holds them. And you are finally free. Now comes the real test. Not the silence. Not the solitude. But returning. Because once you've been transformed in isolation, you cannot walk the world the same way. But the world, it hasn't changed. It still wants your performance. It still wants your mask. It still tries to pull you back into the noise. But you've tasted something deeper. Stillness. And now your power isn't in how loudly you speak, but in how little you need to prove. You don't have to dominate the room. Your presence speaks louder than your words. Because it's not coming from ego. It's coming from alignment. You listen more. You speak less. You no longer chase. Because you know what is meant for you cannot be stolen. People feel it. They won't understand what changed in you. But they'll feel it. They'll feel the gravity in your eyes. The calm in your voice. The boundaries in your silence. Because you've walked through the fire. You've met your demons. And now you're no longer afraid of being alone. Which means you're no longer afraid of being real. You're not here to play a role. You're here to embody a truth. And the truth doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain itself to the unready. You'll lose people. Not everyone will follow this version of you. But that's okay. You're not here to be followed. You're here to lead. And true leadership begins with presence. Presence earned through solitude, forged in silence. You don't need to announce who you are. You just need to be it. Because when you've found peace alone, you bring peace with you, wherever you go. So here you are. Changed. Not in a way you can post about. Not in a way the world will immediately applaud. But in a way that is undeniable. You've walked through silence. Faced your shadows. Found your voice in the stillness. And now you carry a presence the world didn't give you. And therefore, can never take away. You've become the one thing modern society fears most. A human being who is not dependent on the world to feel whole. You are no longer hungry for attention. You are hungry for truth. You are no longer running from pain. You are listening to it. And in that listening, you've become what the world desperately needs but rarely understands. An awakened loner. A warrior of stillness. A mystic in plain clothes. A lighthouse that never screams for ships to come, but stands tall, and lets the light speak for itself. The world teaches you to be seen. Solitude teaches you to see. And now that you see, clearly, deeply, truly, you know what must be done. Not to escape the world, but to walk through it as one who has touched the divine within. To bring the calm into chaos. To bring clarity where there is confusion. To stand in rooms full of noise and remain centered, unmoved, unshaken. This is not loneliness. This is sacred solitude. This is not emptiness. This is presence. And you are no longer afraid of walking alone. Because you know now, in the deepest marrow of your being, you were never alone to begin with. You were always being guided, always being stripped of the false, so the true self, the higher self, could rise. If this video spoke to your silence, if you've walked the same path, then speak, not to be heard, but to remind another soul. The journey inward is the journey home. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the alchemy of isolation is your sacred fire.